Happy to be joined this week on the podcast. Very topical guest, Seahawks General Manager John Schneider, joining me from the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And John, no matter how screwed up this country gets, it's still beautiful up in the state of Washington. So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Peter. Pretty exciting day. The players are showing up today to do all their COVID testing, and here we go. Let's get going.
So, John, I'll ask you an open-ended question first. How do you feel about this? Do you think this really can work? You know, you're seeing what's happening in baseball now, and they're hitting quite a few early speed bumps. How do you look at the possibility that the NFL can play a full season?
I just think we're a league that's always had a ton of adversity, and we have great leadership all the way around, and I think we'll be able to work through it, both sides. I think it basically looked like there was two CBAs that were just negotiated right over the last several months, and both sides, I know for a fact, the league and the union, they work their tails off to get us in a spot where we can get ready to go, and all the medical people doing whatever they possibly can to help us all out and help us to lead all of our individual organizations. So yeah, I have a ton of hope. I'm sure we're going to hit a ton of issues as we go. But like I said, I think we're a league that's very strong with leadership and overcoming adversity.
What is it like around your building? Do you feel when you walk into your building now in Renton, Washington, do you feel safe? Do you feel like it's there's a lot of anti-COVID insurance in there?
Yeah, absolutely. Sam Ramsden and Matt Thomas and our whole staff, Dr. Dresner, working with the league office, and Dr. Sills and everybody that's been working on this. You got to remember now, Peter, these people have been working on this stuff when we were getting ready to have the drafts at our house. It feels like it's been a long time. These people were doing a great job getting us all set. So, yeah, there's excitement for people to be back to work, but yet, we have to create that distance and the spacing and be respectful of everybody so we can do the best possible job we can as we proceed here.
As we record this on Tuesday afternoon, you have had one opt-out, guard Chance Warmack. You haven't had any of, like the Patriots have had a bevy of players, but do you expect there to be many more opt-outs either in Seattle or around the league?
I'm not sure. I think when you look at, every individual, every family is going to be different, right? So, everybody's at a different point in their career. Certain players are going to feel a specific way about their organization and how their organization's prepared for this. So I can only speak for the Seahawks, and knowing that, Chance had a, situation that was very personal that we totally respect, and I can't speak on behalf of the Patriots or anybody else, but I just know the Seattle Seahawks and our staff have done a phenomenal job getting us ready to go. And, we'll be ready if other people decide to opt out, and we won't hold any animosity towards anybody that wants to hold out. We'll respect their opinions, and we'll be ready in terms of having an emergency list of players ready to keep competing every week.
You think players are worried about a stigma associated with opting out? Either, that they're leaving their team, they're basically doing something anti-team, or that do you feel like these guys are making decisions whether to play or not play purely on a personal level, having nothing to do with the team?
That's a great question. I think, during the summer, through all these negotiations and everything, I don't think that, the football fans across the country probably don't understand how many calls, the union's been on with their players and the league and the union and going back and forth. So I think there's been enough discussion where, players are going to respect each other's feelings about opting out or going for it and playing and trying to respect each other with all the rules that we have set in place now with all these COVID protocols, because I just think it's obviously we need to do the best job we possibly can and learn from Major League Baseball and the NHL and and the NBA. I've been in contact with the NBA teams, NHL teams. We have other people that have Major League Baseball contacts. So we're doing whatever we can to take the correct precautions, and I don't think players are going to have any animosity towards each other.
Let's talk a little bit about football. I think you're
and let's
you
talk
sort
football.
of you sort of shocked the world, even though clearly you'd been looking at Jamal Adams and considering him for a while. It's funny. There were two teams last year around the trading deadline one of which I thought was very close. At 3:00 Eastern time on the afternoon of the trade deadline, the general manager of this team was waiting by his phone because he thought Joe Douglas might call him and say, hey, we got a deal. So clearly this hasn't been just happening. People have been going after Jamal Adams for a while. When would you say you first either expressed interest in him or sort of started feeling out Joe Douglas, the GM of the Jets, about whether it was even possible that he'd move Jamal?
Well, Joe and I have a real good relationship. We go back several years scouting, being on the road. We were actually at Boise State the same day that Cam Chancellor returned to camp after his holdout. So it was a pretty exciting time, and we had talked a lot about a number of different things. And so at that, on that day, because that was such a big day for the Seahawks, and so going through what he was going through, we had talked obviously before the draft. We traded with them, on draft weekend, and had a couple of different things lined up with them, and then got into the situation with Jamal, and our staff, Willie and Nolan and Trent and Scott, our guys do a really good job of what we preach about, just trying to stay in every deal and try to be connected and see what the landscape looks like throughout the National Football League. And so, I think it was just a matter of staying in touch with those guys and keeping their relationships going, being open and candid with their conversations. And I'd have to say probably about maybe 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, is when, Joe and I started really getting serious about it.
At what point did you mentally determine that you'd be willing to give a second first-round pick for him?
Well, I think it's always going through your mind, because the way we view it is just, and I hope this comes across the right way, but historically we've been picking in the late 20s, and credit to our whole football operations staff and Coach Carroll and all his guys and the way they develop people, and obviously our quarterback and Bobby and KJ and all the veterans that have done such a good job over the years here. But when you're picking in the late 20s, it's a different challenge, and we just viewed it as an opportunity to say, if we were picking 27 to move up to number 26, what does that look like to us, on draft weekend? And quite honestly, we felt like it was it was appropriate for us that would be the right compensation. Now that can be debated, right? I mean, it's fun, it's entertainment for everybody. I get it, but it's when you're in that arena with somebody and you're having those negotiations and you're trying to figure out what your future is going to look like, and what your windows of opportunity look like. We just felt like we should go for it. And you can't sit here and preach that you're going to be a consistent championship caliber football team and not be in something like this and go for it.
One of the things I liked about the trade, and look, if you look at your history, and one of the things that I like about this generation of general managers, I started covering the league, and the only guy who was really like you, and like, let's say Chris Ballard and Dimitrov and a lot of the younger guys, Brett Veach, it was Bobby Beathard. And I'm not saying that other general managers were scared. That's not the right word. But it was such a conservative time in the 80s and 90s for trades like this. And now it isn't anymore. And my belief is that it makes the game more fun. And quite honestly, it's more realistic. Here's the way I look at this trade, and I just want to hear your thought. First of all, your average draft position in the last 5 years before trade is 23.4. So basically, the bottom third of the first round. And in the last 5 or 6 years, if you look at, even after you wheel and deal and make trades, if you look at who you've come up with, you've drafted 5 players in the top 45 since 2014. I wrote this the other day. Paul Richardson, Jermaine Ifedi, Malik McDowell, Rashad Penny, and LJ Collier, not including this year. And look, whatever you think of any of those players, and we don't really know about LJ Collier yet, okay? But whatever you think of any of those players, none of them really has the potential impact on your team for the next 3 or 4 years of Jamal Adams. And so I just look at it and I say, you'll figure out if you really need a draft choice in the next year or two. I just think you'll figure out a way to get it. Give me your thought on what I think about you.
No, I think that's fair. I think that you also have experienced a gap in, I don't want to say generations, but now when you're dealing with other general managers, you have guys that are similar in age and closer in experience. There was a pretty big gap there for a while where, there were guys that were, 15, 20, 25 years older than me that you didn't have that same type of relationship with, or, so I think this group is much more, is easier to deal with. I don't think there's a lot of people that are out there trying to just completely try to take advantage of people. And I'm not saying that happened in the past, but I mean, I'm sure that there were certain people that thought that they could do a better job than others, and that's fair. That's that would be their prerogative and their confidence in their staff and how they approach acquisition. With us, when you look at our guys, when we moved back and took Malik McDowell, we thought that was a great move, and I talk about this, and you and I have talked about this after every draft. It's almost like you get done talking to a group of surgeons that have come out of a operation where nobody really comes out of there going, that was just okay, like that commercial, right? like like somebody just got reinstated, right? That one, so you always feel good about it. We lost Malik in a tragic, 4-wheeler incident. And, was never able to play football again. Rashad Penny, had probably the best medical grade we ever had on anybody, and he comes in and gets hurt right away, so, and then LJ Collier last year, nobody's even seen him yet. We thought we were going to lose him for this season. He had a very rough, like kind of NBA-ish high ankle sprain. And so there's these guys that we, there's still, yes, I understand, the Malik situation, and that, that's a bummer, for everybody, himself included. But, the other 2 guys, people haven't really truly seen yet. So
right.
We're excited about those guys, and, we're excited about a ton of young guys in the team, and it's pretty cool to see, like, Tyler Lockett, finally getting up there. We got 2 receivers in the top 100 players that the players voted on. It's excited to see Chris Carson get into that group. And so I think there's a number of young, talented guys that we're excited about here. We're excited about this last class too. And when you sit back and you're constantly preaching to your staff about, what can we do every day to get better, and you're adding somebody of Jamal's intensity and dog and instincts, and he's just an incredible football player. So we just felt like it was an opportune time. We love Bradley McDougall, great guy. He's a pro day in, day out. The Jets are going to love him. But we just couldn't pass on this, and that we pride ourselves on not just the first round, but 3 through 7, and then how important is rookie free agency. We started a Super Bowl with 2 rookie free agent wide receivers, so we take a lot of pride in the whole process and not just the first round. The first round ends up just being the entertainment portion of what the draft looks like.
Tell me, what exactly is your philosophy, if I can call it that, right away, as you know, a lot of people say, and I quoted anonymously one general manager in the league said, basically, I'd never trade 2 1s for a safety. But tell me about your philosophy without being too praiseworthy. Like, how do you get to be unafraid to really step out and to make a major commitment, like trading 2 1s for a guy who's not a left tackle, who's not a quarterback per se?
Well, you have to try to look at the landscape and see what, are you going to be able to? I mean, we have Dwayne Brown on our team right now. Do you have a future? Is there an avenue for us to have a future left tackle? What does that look like? Pass rusher. We traded for Jadeveon last year. He had a great year with us and did a really nice job. So you're trying to figure out how you can acquire those guys all the way through. I would say without, getting too much into detail, Peter, that we needed to get faster on our team this year, especially on defense. And I feel like we've done that. And you look at the National Football League right now, especially our division with all the crossers and the talented tight ends that we have. It's important that with, with Ugo and Blair and Diggs and now Jamal, it's a really good group. And, we had Lano Hill who, 2 years ago was playing for Michigan, who was playing at a very, very high level 3 games in a row and then had a very serious hip injury. And he's had a really nice offseason, so we're looking forward to seeing him as well. But you have to have so much speed on the back end, especially when we're going to be playing against Kyler Murray, George Kittle and all, Robert Woods and all these guys that seem like they're just running all over the place. You got to have as much speed in the field. And so adding a guy like Jamal who has that versatility to play down in the box and play in the hole and play man coverage is really important to us.
But in general, just about trades in general, where did your ethos and your relative fearlessness about them come from?
I guess I would have to say just our philosophy of competing every day and not being able to just, sit back and think that you have it figured out and be comfortable and you have all the answers. I mean, we're trying to push the envelope every day. I mean, we're not done. We're going to try to build this team. I mean, you've seen it, all the way through, the even the playoffs, what we're doing with practice squad players, moving them up and having them play on special teams for us and shuffling people around. That's a great thing about, Coach Carroll and his staff. As I stated earlier, they're not afraid to put people out there, young people and talented guys to take a shot and see what we got. I mean, we started out a long time. I know this is going back, but we started out a long time ago where, Byron Maxwell and Richard Sherman were competing out there at corner. And then, we had Marcus Trufant as well. And everybody was like, man, are we going to put Richard Sherman out there? And as talented as Marcus was and as high as he got picked in this draft and in the draft, when he came out, all of a sudden we were playing with Richard and Marcus moved inside, so taking those chances and knowing that you have a staff that's willing to develop and play young people is really, really important right now in this league.
I want to touch on 2 other topics quickly. One is, this might seem boring to people, but I think if you guys make it through this season, the practice squad is going to be hugely important. Yeah. And I want to go back in time because I was talking to Pete Carroll over the weekend about the 1987 NFL season, which, for those who don't remember, basically teams played 2 games, players went on strike, and very, very quickly, within days, teams had to sign teams of replacement players because the NFL was going to keep playing football. So you were, I believe, about 16 or 17 years old at the time. And I'm sure you remember replacement football. But this is the thing that really, really reminds me of replacement football. Not that you're going to be doing that. Russell Wilson, unless he gets sick, is going to play quarterback for you. But it seems to me that you have to be more concerned probably than ever with the quality of your practice squad this year, knowing that, hey, 1 week you might have 2 key players, go down or test positive with the COVID virus. And so you're going to have to reach down into your practice squad, and guys are going to have to step up and play. So what do you think of the importance of the practice squad this year, and what have you done about the practice squad maybe that's a little bit different from a normal year?
Well, we always think it's very important every year. Our staff does a great job with it. We're constantly on it, studying other teams' practice squads as well. But this year in particular, as you stated, we're going to have 6 veteran type players that you can have on your practice squad, 16 total. So I think that's going to give us I think it's going to be a huge benefit coming into the weekend. The early testing and seeing what your Thursday looks like before you travel. For us, before we travel on Fridays, we're playing out east 5 times this year, so we always leave early, and so it's going to be very important for us to figure out what our what that active group is going to look like. And Pete and I think Pete and I do a real good job of communicating that starting on Sunday night after the game with the medical staffs, and then getting together again Monday morning and working through that all the way through the week. Like, what does our world look like? And Brian Schneider as well, our coach, is very involved with that. No relation, by the way.
Yeah. So you bring up an interesting subject. That if you leave 5 times for road games on Friday this year, you're probably assuming that you're gonna test, I guess, either Thursday or Friday. Do you know anything about what the testing regimen will be during the week, during the season?
Yeah, we're still gonna be working through some of that, but I know that it's gonna be extremely important for us to know, what our team looks like especially once you're there. I think the travel and everything's gonna be so unique this year with the hotels and meals, and I can't tell you how much work has gone into the planning of this, and again, what the buses are going to look like and what the hotels are going to look like. And
give me an example.
Someday I think it'd be really important, really cool for you to have somebody on that from the union and from the league that negotiated this deal that where they can go back and forth talking about everything that went into this, and again, it's going to be a process that we're working through, like you said, with Major League Baseball, and we didn't totally bubble it like the NBA, so we'll see how that goes. And I know the NHL's in up in Canada, and so that's going to be an interesting study as well. So, but I just think it's the behind the scenes work that's gone into this, and what does a tier 1 person look like, and a tier 2 and a tier 3, and that's the administrative part of it that's been challenging for everybody. But like I said, the people on our staff, David Strickland and Sam Ramsden and Matt Thomas, those guys have done a great job, and Eric Kennedy, our equipment guy, and our head of equipment, and everybody just working together. It's going to be doing more with less this year, and I think it's challenging and exciting, and I think our people are totally up for it. So it's gonna be fun, not fun, but challenging,
Yeah.
and their people are ready for it, I should say.
Are you confident that the league can pull this off?
Yeah, I am. Like I said, I think that the leadership that we have, and if that constant communication that we have to have, It's like we're playing by, and we are not like, we are completely, playing with a different set of rules in terms of, what our rosters look like and when people can be in the building and how many people can be around and, how many massage therapists you can have around or how many what does your cafeteria look like? And, what does the meetings look, what do our meetings look like? Now we're going to do our meetings virtually. I'm not sure, what every team's doing, but, the 15 players working out and, the different sets of 15 players working out in a strength room, in the weight room at a certain time. So, yeah, I think I'm confident we're going to pull it off. It's going to be a wild west challenge. I feel bad for college football right now as well too.
Yeah.
We're looking at talking to a lot of those guys. I mean, what does their world look like? And you feel bad for the players, these young men that are going to be freshmen, guys that are going to be seniors, and then especially the fans. I mean, you look at the people who love going to games, in the fall, like going to a college game on Saturday down south or anywhere. But you go to a Georgia game and then you go to a Falcon game or something. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be it's going to be a bummer for the fans if they're not able to get in.
Yeah. What's been interesting? The draft is so much fun for people. And I've probably answered 20 emails from people saying, I just don't have any idea. I don't know how anybody can have any idea. But if college football is played in the spring in some places, how in the world would you sync that up with the draft? You have any idea?
Yeah, I guess you give away your first and your third round pick and then just no, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I think that, again, that's going to be another fun challenge. We had a huge challenge this last year without being able to bring people in for physicals and get as much work done as we could at the combine. And our staff did a great job at the All-Star games, and so it's going to be interesting to see what that window looks like if more teams are playing or if more conferences end up playing in the spring. But we'll be on it. We'll be studying it. We'll be, doing whatever we can to learn as much as we can about these individuals.
Hey, John Schneider, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast this week. We went about 25 minutes and we could have gone 25 hours.
I appreciate you, Peter.
And we wouldn't have covered everything. But anyway, thanks so much. Good luck, and hope you can pull it off.
Appreciate you. Stay safe.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.